Okay, my outstanding friends, this is going to be pretty interesting. I was looking into this Barney and Betty Hill abduction case, and they talked about these aliens. They drew pictures of them, and they look literally identical to this. Now, this, I'm going to show you in detail why I'm making the claims I'm making, what is real and what isn't real, and I'm going to show you how you can tell what's real and isn't real, and the blood, the transition of all of the soft tissue body parts into stone. And I'm going to explain how it happens, and I'm going to show you how you can tell if something is real or it's fake. So we're going to be looking into this and this Barney Hill abduction case, and then all my, well, not all of them, but most different creatures' heads, and these are real heads. That right there, my friends, is truly was alive at one time, and I'll show you how you can tell if it's true or not. And it's got all to do with the blood vessels and the articulation of the anatomy and the different types of tissue layers and the different chemistry involved in those layers. And I will explain to you, it's not all that hard to understand. You don't have to be any brain whiz here. You just have to look and think. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do. It's quite simple. And you'll be able to tell where the arteries and the veins are with the different coloration, and like even this crack in the back of its head where the blood is coming out. That's blood, that's red blood. And the crack is in the back of that creature's neck, back of its head. And it has a carapace. I think it might have been almost like a cobra head. This is what you have to look at. You can't just laugh at these things. Oh, somebody carved that. It looks like that. At first I said, oh, that's crazy. But then I started looking at it, and I looked at the neck, and I could see all the artery, the vein, the tongue, and it has the two tongues coming up. I think it's got forked tongue. We're going to go through all this stuff. And I've been putting this together for a week or two, so it's sort of sporadic, let's put it that way. There's going to be a lot. I might overlap here and there, or I don't know what I'll do. Because like I say, I'm just throwing clips together. But hopefully you'll get something out of it. And I'm going to be talking about what Betty and Barney Hill had to say about their abduction. They went into extreme detail, drew pictures and everything. I'm going to tell you right now, I think that's who they got abducted by. Okay, my outstanding friends, this is going to be a shocker. This was the picture that they drew of this woman, Betty Hill. Her and her husband, Barney Hill, were on their honeymoon, and they claimed to have been abducted. And in extreme details, they talked to the people and everything. And she was, I'll go through it in some detail. But this head, I think I've seen one very similar. And the eyes, she was just fixated with the eyes. I have some clips of her talking. I believe it's her. It might have been a recreation. I don't know. But she's really crazy about these eyes, and I know why. Okay, my friends, shocker du jour. I was sent a picture of this and another one of the same guy here, and it's a head of a creature. I'm certain this was alive. This is the skin peeling off. I've seen this many times. These eyes, yikes. And I'm going to go into Barney and Betty Hill, who were abducted by some creatures that look almost exactly like this. This looks like some kind of a spacesuit collar around him. And this looks like his neck was just torn right off. Now, he sold it the next day. I never got more than this picture and one other picture. And the other picture is this one here. But again, it's got that collar looking thing around it. And I get into this a little deeper in a minute, but I just wanted you to know that these kind of things are not out of the question. And they were saying, oh, these people are just talking about aliens. Who would ever take these people seriously? Well, people need to look at things a little more carefully. Because what I'm showing about the pyramids is over the top too, and they won't look at it because it is. And that's the first thing out of our mouth. Oh, he's talking about crazy things, so don't pay any attention to him. No, pay attention, and if you can't deny it, then let's talk about it. If you can deny it, show me why. Okay, my friends, as I might have mentioned before, I don't know if I did or not, I have done this in clips. So this might be out of sequence, just go with the flow, that's all I can say. This is my buddy, Caesar Augustus. I believe he's a goosehead, and there's his feather pattern. I'm going to show you why and how you can look at this correctly, and sometimes it takes moisture to bring out the subtlety of the blood metals and so forth, and the different membranes and layers of tissue. I will explain that in extreme detail, and I will go over all these different heads. Originally we talked about this, and I will tell you why I know this is absolutely for certain real. Because of the texture of it, first of all. Secondly, the throat. And I have a brain that most of I don't actually possess these things. This brain was, somebody sent me this picture, and they found it in, I believe this is the spot they found it. Look at the different layers. Look at those. I don't know if you can see those from where you are. Let me come in close here. Hold on. You see those different layers? You can actually see the guy's tongue and everything else. All right, now this is the throat coming up. That right there is some kind of strappy little stuff for your coming up for your throat, and I believe this is the tongue actually coming out. Would have come out here. Up above, there's like a membrane protecting the brain from all the fluids inside your throat. But you could, it looks to me like this is the exit. This is the back of the brain. This is the front part of the brain. And your eyeballs would be basically right about in this area, you know, coming out this way. And that really intrigues me, that those layers. Look at them. They're very, 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 and more very distinct. And then where you see, then I can't remember where I got this from. I think it was a lady sent this to me. And then this guy, this person, stripped it all down. And I'll show you what happened after they cleaned it all up. All right, this is preserved exceptionally, obviously. I think it was a she, cleaned it all up. And this was what remained after all of the other stuff was stripped off in the sinus area. These are sagittal sinus, something like these. These are your sinus areas. That's the throat coming up. Now, the tongue came up like this and would have come out this way. This, you see these little lines here? That's part of the anatomy. Same with this here. This whole thing is a bendable, flexible tube to some degree. All of these are fibers of one nature or another, whether they're, like in this case, I believe these are all nerve fibers up in the brain. And I'm going to show you Mitchell Hedges' skull, which is also, well, I'll show it to you in a minute. But this preservation is quite exceptional, and I believe you can actually see through the, you know, it's opaque, as you can see through here. I believe this has the same sort of thing. It's almost turned to crystal, and that may have been the next part of transitioning if it was in the ground for who knows how much longer. But you can see this is part of the structure of the sinus cavity. And before, it had all that black mat on there. And we're going to go look at the anatomical book in a second, but don't forget about these sagittal sinus cavity, whatever they are. And let me just show you the Mitchell Hedges skull before we go over there, which has all of these fibers in there. Hold on a second. Now, don't forget, that little trunk-looking thing there going up, which is your throat, is basically right up in this area of the Mitchell Hedges skull. Now, let's look at the nerve fibers. This was unbelievable, spectacular preservation, and that is a real skull. Not only that, the jaw does this. It completely transitioned because of silicates. A very strange situation, but you could tell it's real in a number of ways. The teeth make you think it's not real. They're so absolutely flawlessly perfect. Look at that. Now, whether that was a product of the crystallization of the teeth, I don't know. Normally, I never see teeth preserved. I haven't found any. None. But this is the fleshy part of the face. And that's the only fleshy part that was preserved. All the rest is gone. And the reason is it was in the mud. And when I say that, I can prove that basically because I have things that their skin is preserved in the mud, the bottom part. And above, it's turned to stone. In this case, the face was down this way. The lip is pushed back. The nose is pushed back. And that tissue was preserved because it was not continuously flowed over. It was in the mud down this way. All right, now, this is that area we're looking at on the other skull that was cleaned out. Now, this is the, I forget the name of the cerebellum, cerebrum, whatever it is. It's moved forward. In this one, which is an actual scan, it's back here. The whole thing is there because it wasn't on his face. So that shows you again, this void in here is this drifted forward. So let's just put it where it actually is. This is what it was, just like that. It was on its face. In the mud. This all preserved flawlessly. Even though it was tissue. There was no tissue left here. All of that started right at there's a couple of layers here. There's a aponeurosis. It started right at the aponeurosis. I'll show you the aponeurosis tendon. And the rest is the fibers. Exactly as the fibers you see here. You see that trunk coming up and all those little fibers? There it is right there, coming up and all those little fibers. And you can see them in the other one that was stripped down. You can see all those little fibers too. There's no way anybody could have carved this and put those fibers inside, put the lip twisted back, and I mean, this looks crazy. And that little hole in there, that's real. I looked at that and I said, what the hell is that? Well, it is. It's in the real bones. And this jaw articulates. And the teeth are fabulous. Now, that is, nobody can deny this. The people that deny this it just looks like that. Oh, somebody carved that. Oh, there was tool marks. No, none of those things have been true. None. Zero. Totally wrong and either fabricated or just denial, and that's what I see all the time. They won't examine the evidence. Now, the same thing happened to me with my friend in Kentucky. This was his head. Hold on. I actually wrote a book about it because I was so upset. Jim, where did your head go? Well, this is a book I wrote. That's the head right there. Hold on, let me get the head. All right, I'm going to blow through these pretty quick. That's the head that I was talking about. And this was Jim Burchell and Arlie Caudle down in Kentucky. This goes back well over 10 years. And this was the head. And you see his nose is splayed out? Somebody either stepped on it or it's just splayed out. But there's blood right there. Let me turn this off. Sometimes you can see better. Hold on. Hold on. Hold the fort. All right, here we go. That's blood right there. And there's exactly where there's going to be blood in the facial areas. That's black and red blood from being smashed in the head with who knows what. This is a cap. This whole thing is a cap. It's on his head. And you can see the knitting over here, and that little band is the band around the top. It's not, this is not a haircut. And I have never touched this, but as soon as I saw it, I knew exactly what it was. This black is what's called bone black. When you crack a bone, which is up in your head, of course you have skull, and you crack the bone, you get either red or black or both. Now, they stay away from each other. I've talked about this many times. The red and the black, they just don't mix. So the black stays here and the red surrounds it. Now, bone black is when you break a bone, just like I broke a bone in my fingertip here. And that's just a black that bleeds out. Now, it could be a vein too, but I believe this is a broken, actually cracked bone, because they do that. Now, I have one here from a fingertip from a giant, and this giant's hand was DNA tested, and that right there, that black. Now, I hope you can see that black pattern. You see that black pattern? There, that's probably the best I can show you. Now, you see what's coming in the bottom? The vein and the artery. The vein has the tube. The artery doesn't. The artery blows out on the side because that's where the weak spots are. Arteries blow out. You see one blow out the end and both sides, and here's where it came in from. That is the vein. That's the fingertip. Now, the veins don't blow out. You see, it's got a clamp. It's got a clamp up there. And it's got one right at the very end. So these don't blow out. But it's the same articulation. It comes up, the tube comes in, and these just blow out. Red blood just blows out. The other side is the return, the vein, and they don't blow out. And it's still even got the tube inside of it. And that bone black right there is because there was a bone in there. And this little, right here, is the actual bone. And that's what's inside of a bone where the marrow is, which turns black. All right, but this is actually the outline of the bone. All the rest of this is fleshy stuff that would have been there. Now let me show you what a full-size one looks like. This is one from a big, huge hand that I have here. And this is another one of the fingertips from that same hand, only it didn't erode. And I have this thing on here to keep that from falling off. That's the tendon. It snapped off. The bone is right there. Anyway, this has been CAT scanned, DNA tested, human. And I don't scrub it off the surface. I drill holes into things to get the samples out. And I know where to drill it because I know where the vein and arteries are. Just as I just showed you. All right, this is the hand that these fingers came from, and this is a bone ball, which is the knuckle. That right there is a knuckle ball. The same ball right there is on my finger. And it died laying flat like this. This just completely transitioned, but the bone ball stayed still visibly different than the rest. That's the key with mud fossils. It looks like all mud and stone, but it's not. That was the bone ball. Now, not only that, look at this. It broke off here. That ball came down here, but muscle normally would have wrapped around that bone ball and gone right up the fingertip. This side, it didn't erode. You see that? That's the muscle. That's actually muscle. And this piece here was the tendon, and that tendon lets your finger do this. It pulls back and forth this way. Right there, that ball, that little round ball right there, is the center of the tendon that wrapped down, came down, and right there when it started into the muscle. They have an abrupt transition like that. It died flat on its back, and that is the tendon that wrapped down, so that the finger could do this. That piece right there. That's tendon. And that ball, that little round spot, is the center of the tendon. But it's transitioned so completely that it just turned basically into mudstone. However, you can see the difference right there in the texture and the makeup of it. It's the outside casing of the bone. That side didn't erode. I mean, did erode everything. This side kept, it's like I couldn't ask for a better situation to see the difference. And it died laying flat on its back like this, as did this hand. This thing here runs out, I don't know, I found a bunch of stuff from that hand. And this is the grip skin, this silvery stuff. You see that? See how it's peeling here? That's grip skin, it peels right off. And that's fully understand. These are the pads of your hand. It's the left hand. This is the small finger. That's the tendon that runs down. You got one in your hand too. And that's the little cleave right there. And it's a 4 foot wide up here, about 3 feet down here, something like that. DNA tested. And the fingertips are CAT scanned. I had 7 CAT scans done, and of different things. But you know, you really can't see much on a CAT scan. I got to be honest with you. The best was the 2D, which is, well, let me show you. Now, these were done by Jesse Garant and Associates. They have a place in Canada and the United States. Very, very, very nice people, and they did these at no charge. They did 7 separate CAT scans for me, and Jesse Garant, I will never be able to thank him enough. And I would have thought this would be enough to help with all the other evidence, because I also had DNA tests, I have the specimens, and it never did work out. But Jesse, thank you so much. Fabio, again, best people you ever want to work with. This shows there was a fingernail bed here. It's eroded, yes. This nick right here, there's a tendon comes out of here and straps right down, and that lets you do these little things right at the tip of your finger. There's a tendon right here. Actually, this is the thing right here. Well, let me just take it apart and show you. All right, you see that little niche right there? That's not accidental. There's a tendon that locks right in this like that, and it lays right down here. Ooh, see that piece of the tendon just fell off. All that does is goes right up against the bone. You know, the crazy thing is, when they find bones and stuff, they're not really bones. The same as this. They break off all the flesh to get to the bones. I'm not kidding you. They think because they'll find something like that, and they'll look and say, "Ooh, that's a bone." And you can actually tell it's a bone. You put water on there and look at it. You can see the total difference. And then, of course, you look at it and you say, "Well, it's a shape of a bone." And then they break everything off to get down to that bone. They take 6 months to get to the bone when they had the whole fingertip the first time. Now, anyway, that's this fingertip. Now, we can see there was a fingernail bed. We can see that. The other fingertip here that I showed you that was so completely eroded, guess what it's got? The same hook. It's got the same hook here. It eroded down, but that's where the tendon would have locked in, right into that area right there. So it's got the bone block of a distal phalanges, the tip of the finger. It's got the blood vessels. It's got the clamps on the veins, all 3 of them. It's got the open arteries, which is exactly what you expect. It came from the same, you know, it was right in the same hole with the same hand. You know, fingertips and a knuckle and all kinds of stuff came out of there. And anyway, and this is a whole pile of debris to go back through. So at some point, what are you going to do? You just keep showing and showing. Here's the other part of the CAT scan. Here's the key. This is a 3D. This means you go through the bones like that. Now, what do we see? Not much. What do I see? I see this. Right there. You see that? You see there's another little ring out there? That's basically the density of the outside of the bone. The inside is like marrow-ish stuff. And then of course you got your blood vessels coming up. But this, if you take your time, and sometimes you get close, sometimes you back way off. It depends, you know, you got to take your time to look at it, but you can see that outline of the bone. It's there, but it's not like slapping you in the face. Very, very, very hard to see. And it's not because they didn't do they did a fabulous job. You would never see that. We had another one done. We had this one done right here at University of Texas, Austin, and it was the worst experience of my life. It ended up almost in a legal deal. Well, it did. The police called me and said, don't bother these people again. They had a lawyer call me and say, take down your video about us not working with you. Anyway, it was with this head. And I went there because Yale refused to look at it. They said, oh, you got to have this done, that done, CAT scan. And Arlie Caudle and Jim Burchell, I think they paid them to do this. I don't know. And it was going to be very expensive. And I had figured, well, once we get it authorized, or at least do what they asked, they would look at it. Still refused. And they wouldn't even return the phone call after they did the CAT scan. And I looked at it, and it was just not, there was nothing there. And, well, there was a little tiny thing, but I wanted to ask them a question about, I had a couple of quick questions. And there's nothing big. And they absolutely refused. But they sent me something back like this. You know, which, that is the fingertip, yes. But you can take a good shot where you can see something, or you can take a bad shot where you can see nothing. And I think, as far as I recall, it was the bad shots, like something like this, where you really can't see anything. But it's because it's what's called nucleophilic invasion substitution. But if they had done like Jesse and Fabio did up there, multiple shots, there would be something probably that would be definitive, because you got to get it just at the right place in the 3D. Now Jesse did the 2D, and which really points it out. Look at this. Look at this. This is the 2D. This is fabulous. This right here is the bone. All right, and I showed you, well, right here. That's the bone. This piece here broke off. That is the tendon, and that's the blood vessel that surfaces it. Take your time. All right, take your time and look very carefully. This is just fabulous, because otherwise you'd look at that thing and you'd say, that's just a blob of dirt. Right? Look at it. You'd look at that and you'd say, that's a blob of dirt. And I wouldn't say you were crazy for saying that, because you just have to understand mud fossils, and you have to understand anatomy and all that stuff. Of course, I had already found a hand, and the finger was sticking off it, so I kind of figured it was. But anyway, that's one of the tendons. This is the other one. Why is this one black and that one's white? What's going on with that? They're two different states of blood. You've got vein and artery blood run up, and then they go across a bunch of capillaries, turn around, and come back. So the artery comes down. I believe that's this, because that runs out, and you get red just runs out. As I showed you, the red just runs out. It leaks right out, and it stays almost fluid forever. If you rehydrate mud fossil blood, it turns red again. I mean, red quick too. All right, so you want to see that? You do want to see that, huh? Well, I'll show you. How about that? Here's a mud fossil right here. You can see it's all stony looking. There's the artery and the vein. And the artery comes down here, and it's feeding. There was a layer right here. You see that layer is broken off. It should come out like this. In between layers of tissue, there's going to be red blood. Now watch that. You can already see it's red. Oops, can you see that? No, not well. All right, let's try that again. That's what I'm talking about, and that's the flat piece that came off, and it breaks right off there. And that's basically the thickness of the skin or the hide or whatever it was that was on top of this thing. A lot of it's eroded down, but right there is where there was a layer of blood between a layer of tissue. Now, all I'm going to do is put a little bit of water on here. Look at that. Instantaneously, blood just rehydrates very, very fast. And some of the things that I have found, and other people have sent to me, or either shown me or sent to me, the blood is still wet, literally wet inside. I had one guy, he put his finger on her, came up with a bunch of blood, and it was a heart, and he had just snapped it right in half. The plumbing came off the top, and the heart was at the bottom with red blood in it. So this is not silly, and I have all the evidence to prove it. I have the DNA test. You see the CAT scans. You see the specimens because it be tested. You saw the hand. If you have a hand, you know, the same thing, your left hand, just put it all like this. That's that little cut right there is here. That's the pad is right here. That's the tendon is right here. That's the pad that runs down to the little fingers right there. That's the thumb that runs off there. The silver stuff is grip skin, very, very heavy and dense skin, and it's almost like a rubber glove on your hands. I call it grip skin. And this is all loaded with plagioclases, which are the fabrics that are tough. Grippy skin, it's grip skin. Very tough, and but it peels right off of the fleshy part, and that's what we're seeing there. This stuff is here. We've been here 10 years, more than that. All right, you know what? Here's how I'm going to do this. I told you I was going to show you how we can authenticate things and make claims and show if they're true or not. And my claim is this is a big toe from a left foot, and this is the callus on the guy's toe. That big jobber right there, all that little bally looking, that's cornified skin. The same as the callus on a big toe if you got a nasty one, it's one like that. All of these little white fibers are what's called plagioclase. You see those little white fibers? That's called plagioclase. That's from grip skin. That's not, has nothing to do with geology. That's biology. All those little white fibers are because it's tough grip skin. They call it whatever you want. They call it plagioclase. You see this? Is plagioclase found in basalt? Yes. You see these little fibers? Those are those fibers right there. And this is a toe, and that's a grip skin. Basalt is, there's all kinds of, these are all different types of basalt. All right, so basalt is not just one thing. No rock is just one thing. But all of these little fibers are the same fibers you find in grip skin. It's all over the place. They call it plagioclase. I call it grip skin. Oh, this thing is heavy. It's collected a ton of metals in that callus. All that blood would have come out of there, as I showed you before. In the other ones, the red blood runs out. That black should not pop out like that. That's popped out. This black blood is just bubbled out of here because it had no way to get out. Normally, it would have pushed the red blood out, and it would have sealed itself off. And this is the little scuzzy stuff right in between your big toe and your next toe over. And that's where the toenail was. And it just bubbled up because it's all, turned to, mudfossil now. But the key takeaway is the plagioclase is where the grip skin is at the bottom. Now feel on the back of your toe. You got one of these right here on the inside of your big toe, on the bottom, right in the back. And right here, That is where the blood came down for the vein side, the black. You see it? That's the black one. The red one is over here, but they just drain right out. So all you can see is, you might not even be able to see it, but that's where it was. And this whole strap comes around. Every body part in your body is wrapped up with a strap. It's called tunica. That's what the ancients called it. You can see it right there. It straps right around. And that's oh man, I'll tell you, that thing, it's unbelievably heavy for this size of a rock. And I've looked at this in a microscope, which we will. You can see all kind. I'm sure there's a lot of gold in there too, because all the metals run down and they try to filter out, to just go back into the soils. Well, here they weren't allowed out, so they stacked up inside there. That is one serious callus. Okay, my friends, I guess that's about enough for today. These things just seem to turn into a marathon, so to speak. There's just so much to go over, and I wanted to be able to explain how I can make claims that things are real or they're not real. So we're going to go over that in the next video. But I will show you how I can make the claim that Caesar here is absolutely, no question whatsoever, some form of a goose-ish thing. And his feathers are here, and we're going to look at how you can identify the inside of these body parts, because the inside has the chemistry of the flesh and bone and tendon and all that stuff. You have to be able to understand it, because almost all stone, all rocks almost, are coated with feldspar. It's aluminum silicates. That's the other thing we have to explain, is why is that? Why are they all aluminum silicates? Because membranes, which is collagens, are made of phosphorus. They boil down to become aluminum silicates, and they stabilize. I called it fascia-facilitated fossilization. Everything that coats everything is called fascia. Even your skin, you could call that fascia. Every organ's coated with membranes are fascia. Even feathers are fascia, made out of the same stuff. So we're going to go over all this stuff, and there's a lot to do here, a lot. And this is the perfect time for you to be in literally any of the sciences. Right now, every science, even history, chemistry's got to change. Everything about space is really, they don't understand anything about. Bennu came back, it's a piece of a heart. All that stuff was true in the ancient texts. We've got to reevaluate everything that we've been taught. I mean, 100%, top to bottom, up, side, over, around, this side, that side, boom, bang. And then maybe we can get somewhere, or we could continue to do this. I love you all. Okay, my outstanding friends, another shocker du jour. There was a thing back in 1961. Benny and Barney Hill claimed to have been abducted by aliens, and this is what they said they saw. And they actually described the spaceship, the guy looking at them, making face and smiling at them, and listen to what he has to say. Well, let me go back just a smidge here. This is the actual transcript. Listen to this.
You're not going to wake up. You're in a deep sleep. You are comfortable, relaxed. This is not going to trouble you. Go on. You can remember everything now. It's over on my right. God, what is it? And I try to maintain control so that I cannot tell I'm scared. God, I'm scared. It's all right.
All right, this is a little melodramatic, but it appears to be what they recorded. This is the doctor talking to Barney Hill about his abduction experience. And you cannot tell I'm scared, but God, I'm scared, it's all right. Anyway, so he sort of, apparently this is some kind of a hypnotic trance or something. Listen.
You can go right on. Experience it. It will not hurt you now.
And I get up with the binoculars, and it's there, and I look, and it's just over the field, and I think I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'll fight it off. I'm not afraid.
Well, I think that's his wife. She freaked out, and she went, it was really a deep problem for her mentally.
And I walk out, and I walk across the road, and there it is, up there. Oh God, it looks like a big pancake with windows and a row of windows and lights, and no lights, just one huge light.
Rows of windows? Like a commercial plane?
Rows of windows. They're not like a commercial plane because they curve around the side of this pancake. And I said to myself, my God, no, I have to shake my head. I'm good. This can't be true. This isn't here. And there's a man there. Is he a captain? What is he? He's looking at me. Why? What do they want? What do they want? And one person looks friendly to me. He's friendly looking. And he's looking at me over his right shoulder, and he's smiling. But
Could you see him clearly?
yes, I could.
What did he look like?
His face was round, and his eyes were slanted. He had a black scarf around his neck, dangling over his left shoulder, and I...
All right, look at this. This sounds to me like it's probably a recreation of the speaking voices. It's too nicely sounding to be of that age, I would say. But what I'm looking at here is this face and these eyes. Where do you see this? That's right there. Now look at those eyes. And I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have any access to this. I got this just as the guy sold it. He sold it like the day before or the day after. And I never got to see it any more than this. And he has no more pictures of it, doesn't want to be involved. But when I see this scaling off, I know that's the outside surface of the skin scaling down. And this was in an area where it sort of ate into the skin. I've seen this before, the same exact texture. And up here it looks like there was red blood up in here. And there's his throat down there. You see? This is all bloody stuff down in here. It looks like it got ripped right off. And there's his chin. You see that? Look at that face. It's not coming way down here. This is like something wrapped around him, a collar or something. Now I have another picture of him here. Look at this. I don't know what's going on there. Whether he has two ears or I don't know what's going on. It almost looks like that should be the ear. Maybe it just got ripped off or something. Who knows? But see, it almost looks like he had like a spacesuit on or something, a big collar going around his neck. That's all I got. And I have no contact with the guy anymore or nothing. Looks like his head got smacked in here or something. I really just don't know. That's all I have is this one and that one. Look at those eyes. Yikes. Now, what did we see before? That's not that far off. He doesn't have a hat on, but he could even have the collar on, the same thing like that. It's not too far off. And this was apparently her or him speaking, one or the other. They both had the same experience, but she freaked out a little more than he did. He's tried to keep things under control, but I did freak out. But she really went off the deep end. All right, this is from a place called Media Time Network. And again, this Fair Use Act, I'm just trying to see what they have to say and what we can add to it for educational purposes. So he or she, I'm not sure which what it is, but they're saying that these were the creatures.
No, this creature is telling me something.
Telling you something? How? How is he getting it to you?
I can see it in his face. No, his lips are not moving, and he's just telling me, don't be afraid. I'm going to be safe. Stay there and keep looking. Just keep looking and stay there.
Calm down. How can you be sure he was telling you this?
His eyes, I've never seen eyes like that before.
You said they were friendly.
Not the leaders. I said the one looking over his shoulder.
How did you know the other one was the leader?
Because everybody moved. Everybody was standing there looking at me, but everybody moved. These levers were in the back, or they went to a big board. It looked like a board. And only this one with a black shiny jacket and a scarf stayed at the window. Those eyes, they were in my
Those eyes, I can understand that.
brain.
There are men standing in the road.
Yeah, they won't talk to me. Only the eyes are talking to me. I don't understand. The eyes don't have a body. They're just eyes.
And where are you? Are you in the car?
No, I'm just suspended. And I'm just floating about. Oh, funny. Floating about. Just floating. And I want to get back to the car. Just floating about.
You're really floating about? Or is that just the way you feel?
That's just the way I feel.
You're still outside the car?
No, I'm not in the car. I'm not near the car. I'm not in the woods. I'm not on the road.
All right. We'll stop there. You will be calm and relaxed. You will forget everything that we have had in this period together until I ask you to recall it again. You will forget everything we have talked about until I ask you to recall it again. You are in a deep, deep sleep. Deep asleep.
When I started drinking warm water to help me lose weight, my friends laughed at me. But when they saw how fast I was changing,
How far away would you say it was?
When I started drinking warm water to help me lose weight, my friends laughed at me. But when they saw how fast I was changing,
It looked at the time it wasn't close to us, but I could see it outlined in front of the moon. And there were searchlights rotating around it. They were bright colors, like a bright orange light, almost like a reddish beam. I saw it go in front of the moon. I was sort of fascinated, but I kept watching. I tried to get Barney to look, and I wanted him to see it before it got away from the face of the moon. But he kept saying, oh, it's a satellite.
Round? Shaped like anything you know? A plane?
No, not like a plane. What I could think of, like a cigar.
Like a cigar?
Yes, it was long, and there weren't any wings, and it was going sideways, like a cigar. It was going from left to right. It was just like holding a cigar to the front of the moon, with all these lights flashing around it. So then Barney looked at it, and I took the binoculars, and looked again, and gave them back to him. And then I went over to put Desley in the car, and got in the car myself, and shut the door. And then Barney came over and got in the car, and he said, they've seen us, and they're coming this way. And I laughed and asked him if he had watched Twilight Zone recently on TV. He didn't say anything.
Why did you mention Twilight Zone? Had there been anything like this on Twilight Zone?
I don't know. I've never seen the Twilight Zone. But I heard people talk about this program, and I was always under the impression that it was a way out type of thing. And so when he said that they could have seen us, and that they were swinging around and coming in our direction, I thought it was his imagination was being overactive. Barney kept saying it was heading towards us, so I thought, well, I don't know what gave him this idea, but I'm beginning to get a little curious why he felt like this. So I picked up the binoculars, and I could see it was getting closer to us and was coming in. It was turning, it was rotating, and it would go along in a straight line for just a short distance, and then it would tip over on its side and go up. I figured there must be somebody inside of the object, someone directing its flight. I just have this feeling that something is going to happen, and I don't know what it is. And I hope I won't be too afraid when it does happen.
They always laugh at everybody that looks into things because they're all conspiracy people, they're just crazy people. If you look into it and you think it has some validity, that's good. If not, just do something else. I saw this from from Barney Hill and his wife Betty. They were on their honeymoon, and they claimed to have been abducted by these creatures. And I listened to the recordings of her explaining it, and she was like, the eyes. And she recorded and said they had like uniform looking things on, and they looked that was her drawing. And they had taken skin scraping and put like tape on it and taken it off and rolled it up and put it in there, and they had put a needle actually into her belly button or somewhere, and taken some kind of a specimen out of there, and so forth, and both of them. And she wanted a book to take home with her so that she could prove that this had actually happened. And the guy was going to give it to her, and they said no. Now, they spoke English, she said. This is very strange. Now, this is 1961. If they didn't know enough about them, and they could speak English, that's strange to me. And especially this part. This one really struck me was Barney had dentures, and they took those out, the aliens. They were trying to pull at her teeth to get them out. She said they were pulling at her teeth, and she wondered what the heck they were doing. And they had taken Barney's out, and they said hers wouldn't come out. And she said, well, he has false ones, that's what it was. So, but she talked about it just like there was everyday talking. And they were talking back and forth about this and that. And it was very detailed, and it was in the newspapers. It was all over the news at that time. And then everybody just laughed it off, and that life went on.